So, okay, this is a great question. I think I mean, eventually everybody has to deal with the return. So let's go on with this question number 16. So how do you deal with a buyer who wrongly report a used so as new?
We deal with those just like inauthentics, but
Mm,
again, I think our processes up front help to head those off because we've only ever had two used sold as
mm.
new complaints. So it's very, very, very rare. I think our crew does a good job of inspecting items up front. The shoppers inspect them in the stores. The warehouse crew inspects them before they send them out, and we make sure that everything is in pristine condition.
Yeah, one other thing is so as used is okay. Imagine my brand new pair of shoes. I hit the first customer, and then they put it on, put the shoestring on, tight and try it, right? And they end up return it. They don't bother to pull the string out, just like a brand new one, and put it in, tied it together on the side. And when that pair of shoes got returned, and Amazon warehouse say, hey, I mean, this is still new, right? Put it back, right? And the second customer receive it, they say, look, I mean, all new shoes have the shoelace, everything is loosened up and everything. But this one apparently looks like somebody already put it on, right? I imagine that people would say it must have been worn by somebody, even though it looks new, right? I mean, if it's not happy, then it will return. So that automatically would tie into, okay, so how would you handle the return? Do you actually call them back or ask Amazon to do a bin check or whatever, right? So that's a really like kind of next follow-up question, right? So I just kind of jump ahead.
We make sure our items are brand new when we send them out, and we make sure the laces look nice. We put new tissue paper in, but a lot of our items do get returned at Amazon. They get put back into our sellable inventory, and in our experience, if it's not a problem, you don't need, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Two used sold as new ever. So I think Amazon is doing okay with that one. I know a lot of people worry about it, but our experience is that it hasn't been a problem.
So now there's a second essential, right? Yes, people have been told, right, from the beginning, when an item got returned, you don't want Amazon to do the inspection for you. They cannot be counted on because they can, do a lousy job. I mean, maybe not 100%, maybe just 30% of the time they do a lousy job inspecting the item return. Then how do you feel about that? You do have the setting turn on and or off.
Repackaging.
I mean, repackaging.
Have repackaging turned on. They're allowed to, but that, how does that work? That only controls what's initially marked as unfulfillable, right?
Right. If it's like something is sent back without a poly bag, or that allows them to rebox shoes into brown boxes. I think Amazon's customers must be accustomed to that at this point.
Yeah.
We have, when we get an inauthentic, the first thing I check is, was this item previously returned? And really, that's just not happening. It's very rare. That might have been one case in the past year. So 1 out of 12.
Yeah. So I find that sometimes Amazon sellers do a lot of extra work on the front end. They do a lot of extra processing within their business to avoid one contact with seller performance, right? So they're going to spend a lot of time on labor. And what's a good example of that? Just to avoid the potential of a problem. And I understand that because selling thousands of pairs of shoes and having this is my livelihood. I don't want to risk my account. I'm trying to think, like we sell a lot of discount store clothing, and a lot of sellers I know will take a picture of the receipt with the Ross tag with the UPC, and some of them will even go down the receipt and find the exact line on it and line it all up. When we take those kinds of pictures, we just take the Ross tag and the UPC, and we've never had any trouble defending an inauthentic like that. So that's an example, kind of like doing a bin check or pulling every one, where you're doing a lot of extra work to stop a potential problem rather than building a process to add to deal with the actual problem. Does that make sense?
It does to me.
Yeah, that's how we approach it. I know it's not within everybody's risk tolerances, but you know, I'm shipping 1,000 items a day between my third-party prep clients and my inventory. And so if I do something that just takes a minute or two per item, that's going to cost me hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars a year in labor. So we try to do it good enough, but not to a higher tolerance than the job requires.
Yes. So you're taking care of the thing that you have full control on, right? So that actually will serve you better later down the road. So for the unfulfillable Amazon, I have also up to this day turned on the Amazon repackage the whole thing. And yeah, surprisingly, I mean, against all the what I heard from people, you should have that turned off. I don't have any problem over the years regarding the issue from that. And yeah, bin check is something that Amazon offer, but probably they don't appreciate if I say do a bin check for every single pair of shoes that return. And
they're starting to say no more and more.
Exactly. Just like the reimbursement, right? Everybody says you have a huge spike in the request, and Amazon will come down to smack you on the head saying that you are overloading my support system. I mean, right. When it comes to bin check, probably the same thing will happen. I mean, they don't have a dedicated department just to handle bin check. I mean, for all the volume coming in, right? So it's not very efficient anyway.
I think some come out of fear and overblown isolated events. So sometimes Amazon will return something that shouldn't have been returned to your fulfillable inventory. It does happen, but I don't think every seller out there needs to have a whole process in place to deal with that all the time when it's such a rare event and relatively small problem.
Yeah, like what you said, it's like one inauthenticity issue a month, and then you have a system to follow through, keep a good receipt. So that should put the fear aside, that just move on and growing the business. So it's so important because people, and you invest so much in shoes, and then you really want to make it work and find a way to address the so-called a higher risk in terms of the inauthenticity and higher return rate, all those things. People kind of really worry. So I think what you said and share, it really helped to put people's mind at ease to say, it's something we can go into and be prepared to go in to do what it takes. So that's a very good point there. Okay. So so the next question actually is quite similar: how to protect yourself against counterfeit claims. So you mentioned, I mean, do all the preparation as much you can tolerate, that do all the preparation ahead of time to avoid this thing from coming up at the first place, right?
And I think a lot of that is making sure the customer sees what they expect, making sure it looks new, feels new, smells new.
Yeah, so that's
that it needs to make the impression of new.
Right.
If they see what they expect and feel what they expect, then counterfeit doesn't pop into their head just because they didn't like it.
Yeah. So I think people should not think about, yes, there's a buyer deliberately try to destroy my business, buy my item and claim a return. This is it's a worn shoes or whatever. I think that's just too scary. I mean, people just it's almost try to scare people off, this idea. They got, blown way out of the water. I mean, scare people off.
There are scammers. Some of the customers stores are scammers, but not most of them. Most of them just want to get what they wanted.
Yeah.
Exactly.
At the same time, though, you know, to go back to be preventative, this is a good reason to keep an eye on your return reports, right? It's a good reason to know which brands are getting returned. We had a case where a certain shoe brand, we spiked to over 20% returns last year in one brand, just for that brand, right? And as we drilled down, there were particular product issues that we were able to change our sourcing and avoid the problems. And so if you know what's going on with your products, with your brands, with your categories, with your return rates, you can preventatively fix it on the purchasing side too. And not just have a good process in place to prove, look, I bought this from Nike, but you can avoid the problem areas to begin with.
We had that with another brand recently too. And when we asked our shoppers about it, we found out that at that one store, they were buying almost entirely clearance. And it turned out that the items just looked they were a little dirtier, they were a little more worn, and there was some bad products slipping through. We weren't being careful enough. Watching the returns by brand, by source, helped us to nail that down too.
Yeah.
And those are the kind of items that lead to complaints.
Exactly. It's quite common sense, right? From the buyer, it's a thing on behalf of the buyer. I mean, whatever that we do sell, making sure they will receive as new, meet their expectation, then we'll get rid of a lot of problems right from the beginning. Great. And then we move on to question number 18. This is the last customer issue category. And how are you combating used as new complaints that result from unit incorrectly categorized as sellable by Amazon now that the bin check refusals are commonplace?
A lot of sellers are worrying about this. I think there's a lot of fear about it, and inauthentics are scary if you get too many, you don't know how to resolve them. They're scary if you don't have a good process in place to answer them.
Right. Yeah. So because we have a good process in place, well, first of all, to answer the question, we don't worry about bin checks like we just said, right? But when you have a good process in place and when the complaints start coming in rapid fire, you can answer them quickly. I know some people, like we used to take 5 or 6 or 7 days to just write and rewrite and look and make sure that the inauthentic answer was very perfect. And over time, we've developed what we feel is a good template, a good boilerplate. And with our VA, we can respond within 24 hours or less, which is important. Especially like first of the year, we actually got, what, 5?
We had 5 in 24 hours on January.
Wow.
Yeah. And we were able to respond very quickly to all 5 of them because we have a system in place. And actually, it's scarier when you're smaller because I do believe personally that Amazon takes your inauthentic complaint ratio as a percentage of your total orders. And they look at the statistics. So if you're only selling 10 pairs of shoes a day, to get 5 inauthentics in 24 hours is much different than when you're selling 300 pairs of shoes a day, right?
And those were a sweep too. The cases, the orders that they related to went back over a month. But even so, it was a lot because we had 9 total in 2018.
Yeah, and it was terrifying. Like you hear stories of people who get suspended for getting 3 in 24 hours, and we had 5. So we just worked as quickly as we could to get responses submitted. And
we got them all cleared very quickly.
That's awesome. It's often how quickly that in that experience within
we had all the responses sent within 48 hours and received responses back on those within 2 or 3 days. I was really impressed at the turnaround. I was just looking at that chain yesterday, and I had written back to them and thanked them because I knew they must have been hammered because a lot of other people got inauthentics the same day. And
And
they
okay,
really,
that's like a specific ASIN.
right,
Uh,
5
okay.
different reasons, and they responded and confirmed them all within a couple of days. When them
I
all
see.
is cleared.
So a follow-up question would be, let's say I get true inauthenticity on an ASIN, okay, and Amazon, they kind of doesn't allow me to sell anymore. What about the approach? Say, I just have enough other brands to sell. I just don't worry about this thing. I just say remove everything and then just move on.
This is how people get suspended. Always respond. Always do your best, and
keep appealing until you get it right.
Change your response, change your approach, resend the same thing. Some people do that, but keep it in action. Show Amazon that you care.
Yeah.
Even if you lost a receipt, we had one a while back where we lost a receipt and we couldn't account for the full quantity. And part of our plan of action there was that we would develop a better system to track all of our receipts.
Right. Well, we had a change in how we viewed Amazon and responding when we heard Peter Kearns at the last Rocky Mountain Resellers Conference, right? And he's a former Amazonian that consults to sellers, and he said Amazon has a culture where you stake out a position and you fight for it, right? You fight for what you believe is right. That's how they operate internally. And up until that point, we had tossed in our inauthentic answer, and if they rejected it, we're so sad they didn't take it. And so that shifted our thinking, and we started pushing back, and we started rewording, reapplying, keep asking. And I think all but maybe one of our inauthentics have always been cleared by taking that approach.
Yeah, and the one that wasn't cleared was before we heard that talk, before we changed our approach.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's an inauthenticity issue with the shoes. I think it's always will be around, and even though Amazon is changing all the time, so have a good way to handling it and understand that in reality, it's just part of the selling on Amazon. If it's not for shoes, then you can get the same thing for other categories as well. Either way, you need to have a system and
most of ours have not been shoes, actually.
Right. And part of our system, Quincy, we didn't say this specifically, but we have a receipt scanner right next to the front door. When our shoppers when they come into the building, before they leave, all of their receipts from that day will be scanned every time. We joke that if we could make them carry a scanner in the car, we would make them scan it as soon as they got done in the store, because the receipts really are your lifeblood. That's the first step in your chain of custody. If you don't have those, there's not much you can do. So the receipts become the single most important document in OA and RA at that point.
So you keep the receipt, you scan them, and then you keep the physical copy in separately, right? So you have both.
Unofficially, our warehouse guy throw them away after they're scanned. He really, really wants to keep them, and we're okay with that, really.
Yeah, we keep about 15 months, a rolling 15 months in the closet, in the supply closet.
Yeah.
We found out he was keeping them without telling us, and that's not a thing.
Yeah, sometimes don't you worry about sometimes the scanning process, sometimes it didn't scan?
No, because they have to visually inspect the image after they scan it before they save it.
I see. Okay, so never had the issue, because sometimes back then when I was doing doing a little bit of RA, I did scan. The image come up on the computer, but it's my fault that actually I didn't click save. It was something else, and then kind of ending at the end, it's not safe, and that's kind of scary. But it all depends on the scanner itself. Once you scan, it automatically saves, even though whether you click the button save or not, right? So I think so definitely the process is important. Receipt is, as you said, is so critical. I mean, if you do without that, I mean, things can get a lot harder to prove to Amazon. Yeah, cool. I think we just hit the believe it or not, this is just half an hour on the customer issue, 4 questions. It's a video by itself.
Yeah.
So, okay. So I think it's so important. It's tied to the follow-up, the following question. So